This week on the Paul Report, we'll talk to Ellen Johnson from Charleston's Puppy and Dog Training Group about how to choose the perfect puppy for your family. There's more to consider than you might think, and making sure you make the right choice can be very important for health and the happiness of your whole family. That's next on the Paul Report. Welcome to the Paw Report. I'm your host, Kate Pleasant, and we are talking about choosing the perfect puppy today. And as you can see, I of course have some guests with me. This is Ellen Johnson she's a puppy class instructor from the Charleston Area Dog Club, right?
Yes.
Okay. And this is Rhodey and Reba. They are joining us as well today, and Rhodey's just kind of hanging out on set. So I think they'll be able to help us kind of talk about how to pick the perfect puppy. So Ellen, why don't you start by telling us, the things you should consider when you're deciding to choose a puppy for your family? I assume there has to be a general decision made first, yes, we want a puppy.
That's correct, and it should involve all the adults in the family.
Okay.
Everyone should be in agreement that, yes, getting a dog is the right thing to do. The purpose for getting a dog usually is to make your life better, to enhance it. Beyond that, you may have a specific job in mind that you want the dog to do.
Okay.
If you have several children, you probably want one that likes children. If you are a jogger, you would like one that's fairly active. If you're a hunter, of course, you want a dog that can be a hunting companion. And if you're an older person, you may want one that's very good at sitting in laps watching television.
Okay.
So it's very important to decide exactly what job you want the dog to do.
Okay.
Because all dogs, pretty much, were bred to do a specific job. And one of the things you want to ask yourself when you decide, and I suggest to people that they start with 3 breeds. What job was this dog bred to do?
Okay.
Where was it bred to do it? What was the weather like there?
Okay.
Well, because
we have a very specific types of climates here. So.
Absolutely. Dogs that were bred to pull sleds in the Arctic are going to have a more challenging time in the summer. It's going to be more difficult to provide them with an opportunity to do what they were bred to do. Unless you have a teenage boy with rollerblades,
Right.
and then you'll be fine.
Or a sled on wheels or something.
Right, but and you get up early because
Sure.
you won't be able to take your Malamute out to run in the heat of summer. So the weather that the dog is used to is very important, and I think a lot of people just don't think about that.
Okay. What are some of the other things that you want to consider? Because I'm sure there's things that people don't think about as well,
Well, can the place where the dog is going to live, the home, the yard, the people within the home, can they meet the dog's needs? And that is probably consideration number 1. If you can't meet the needs of the dog, it will not be happy. It may not be healthy. You may have problems, and that may interfere with, cause stress to the family. So you want a dog where you can meet the dog's needs. One of the most popular dogs, of course, is the Labrador Retriever. And one of the most difficult issues that people have with this breed is they do not consider how much exercise that dog needs.
Okay.
A Labrador Retriever was bred to retrieve ducks from very cold water in November or any time of the year where you're shooting ducks. And it needs about 2 hours worth of exercise a day, or 2 miles twice a day running off leash with other dogs.
Wow.
To keep it, this is a young dog, to keep it in show condition. Okay, few people can provide that, and that's why we have, sadly, so many labs and lab mixes in our animal shelters, because people don't think about, can I meet the needs of this dog?
Okay. Well, and I assume too, space is something you'd want to consider. You probably don't want to keep a large dog like Rhodey here in a very tiny home or tiny yard for that matter?
Well, it depends on the lifestyle of the family. Actually, some of the giant breeds are very inactive in the house, and so you actually could have a very, very large dog if in a small home, if you didn't mind. I mean, some large dogs are as big as your dining room table, and if you don't mind the dog taking up most of the floor space in your living room.
Right.
And the other thing is the age of the dog.
Okay.
An elderly dog like Rhodey is not going to be a problem.
Right. Okay.
As far as her exercise needs go.
Right.
And she's not active in the house.
Okay, so let's talk about some scenarios maybe. Say you're a young family with maybe a baby.
Okay.
What kinds of things should you be looking at, and what types of breeds maybe even should you be considering?
Well, if the baby is very young, I would get or recommend that people get an adult. I think that it's very challenging, especially today when many people work outside the home, that raising a puppy is something very challenging for people when no one's home all day. And an adult dog who's already proven to be good with children, from a stable temperament, would be the safest and best thing under those circumstances. If both people work from home and they have lots of dog experience and they've raised puppies before, then a puppy could work under those circumstances.
Okay. So, you know, what are some breeds that get along really well with small children?
Well, the Newfoundland, of course, is the ultimate nanny dog.
Okay.
And every breed has a downside.
Sure.
The Newfoundland is a dog that is as big as your dining room table. They
Yeah, one of those.
Well, they also drool.
Right.
Because that's how dogs
Sweat.
cool themselves off. And they're a wonderful dog. If you have a swimming pool, they can sort of be a substitute lifeguard. The only problem is occasionally they save children that don't want to be saved. If the children are in the middle of the pool making too much noise, the dog may decide, okay, this isn't a good situation. I will go in and save that child, much to the child's distress. So,
So they have that.
right, and they shed quite a bit.
Right. That's another thing, you know, maybe people don't consider shedding. I would assume you have to consider, does anyone in the home have allergies? How often do you want to clean? Things like that.
Yes. Now you have to remember you're talking to dog people, and to us, dog hair is a fact of life. And when you say, well, I want a dog that doesn't shed, we kind of look at you like, well, I'm going to have children, but I don't want any dirty clothes.
Right.
Okay, so barring that, yes, people who have allergies, there are many nice breeds that don't shed. One of them, of course, is the Bichon that you have, and then the small terriers. Poodles are good if you don't mind the grooming expense, because
Right.
poodles do have to go to the groomer about every 6 weeks. Or
As do Bichons, yeah.
yes, sometimes even oftener. The thing that's important, I think, is to look at the whole picture, to say, what is the downside of this breed? What are the problems that can be encountered living with it? And what are the good things?
Okay. And, you know, is that something people should take into account with research maybe beforehand? Should they be looking to places like the American Kennel Club or something like that?
Absolutely. What I recommend people do is go to akc.org, which is the website for the American Kennel Club, and then put in the names of the 3 breeds or whatever that you've chosen, and then study the material put on the website by the parent clubs, because those are the people that are the authority on that particular breed, and they're very honest about health problems. I know I looked up the Leyenberger recently, and it said, if you are a fastidious housekeeper, be aware that the Leyenberger's coat is usually full of leaves from the outside. And,
okay, so something to consider, you know. And so those are the kinds of things you'd find when doing the research, and maybe some things you find that you maybe do really love about a breed or really don't.
Absolutely. And the thing also that's important is, what does the family like to do? Because if you are a boating enthusiast, there are several dogs that do very, very well on boats. The Havanese is one. Bichons do well on boats. There's two Belgian barge dogs that are famous for being on boats. Then, of course, there's the water dogs, the Portuguese water dog, the Newfoundland, and there's 6 retrievers that are, some of the retrievers are overlooked, and that's kind of a shame because most people can name 2, the Labrador and the Golden, and there is actually 4 more, some of whom, when you get a, say the curly coat retriever, they're a little bit harder to find, but you don't have to worry quite as much about, puppy mills do not breed those dogs, and you don't have to worry. Everyone is breeding the top 10. So you have to be very, very careful when you're getting one of the top 10 popular dogs about picking an ethical, educated, experienced breeder. And if you pick a little bit less popular dog, you won't have to worry quite so much.
Okay. So lots to consider, of course, when choosing the right
Absolutely.
puppies. So, what about breeders versus shelters? What do you need to consider there when you're going to, when you've decided the breed that you want, you know, how do you know, because I assume there are advantages and disadvantages to going to the shelter and saying, oh, that's a cute dog.
Well, the obvious advantage is that the price usually is more reasonable at a shelter. If the dog is an adult, it's already what it's going to be. Now, assessing temperament and personality in a shelter dog would be kind of like trying to assess human temperament and personality by visiting a prison population. So you have to understand that the dog is not going to be at its best under those circumstances. And when you go to the shelter, it's a good idea to take an experienced dog person with you. It is not a good idea necessarily to take your children. Because the practical aspects of dog ownership is not going to be considered very, very well when you do that. When you get to the shelter, you have to understand that the shelter dog's expectation when you come is that if it's a good shelter, a volunteer, it has walked the dog. So that's what the dog thinks is going to happen. And so if the dog doesn't interact with you right away, that's not a special concern. But you want to visit several times. You want to take the dog home with the understanding that if you can't meet the dog's needs or the dog can't meet your needs or problems develop, the dog needs to be returned.
Or rehomed, essentially.
Absolutely, absolutely. People should never keep a dog and be miserable. Because if they're miserable, so will the dog be miserable, and the chances are that there could be another home where the dog would be very happy. I think people who, through no fault of their own, make a mistake, we're all human. I think they should do their best to remedy it. And not feel bad.
What are some things to consider when you're looking into breeders?
You want an ethical breeder, first of all. If you go to the parent club, you will find that on their website they will have a code of ethics, and everyone should read that that's considering that breed, so you know what kinds of things the breeders are supposed, that's a standard that the breeders are supposed to try to live up to. One of the things that's very important is the breeder needs to be aware of the genetic health problems in their breed and have done everything they can possibly do to screen those problems out of their breeding stock. In golden retrievers, for example, you want to ask about epilepsy, you want to ask about hip dysplasia, you want to ask about elbow problems, about heart problems, eye problems, and an ethical breeder should be able to show you, yes, I had the breeding stock examined by say the University of Illinois, and this is the heart test, this is the eye test, this is the hip dysplasia rating, this is the results of the elbow x-ray. No, I do not have epilepsy in my lines. And they should also be able to tell you how old the dog's grandparents lived to be. The number one killer of dogs, of course, is behavior problems. Number two, sadly, in this particular breed is cancer. So you want to ask about that.
Okay.
And an ethical breeder should agree to take the dog back anytime during the life of the dog that you cannot keep the dog for any reason. If your circumstances change, sometimes people return dogs to breeders because a medical intervention is needed and there's no possible way that they can afford to do it and send their children to college.
Sure.
And no one expects anyone to do that to their children.
Right.
So yes, an ethical breeder should agree to take the dog back anytime that you can't keep it, or at least if you can't keep it and say a family member wants the dog, the ethical breeder may want to meet the family member.
Okay.
They will also want reports on how the dog is doing. Some of them want pictures posted on the internet. They call you up, especially with a puppy. They call frequently to see how you're doing. You can expect to be grilled by an ethical breeder. They want to know, what is your dog experience? Have you had this breed before? What kind of yard do you have? How high is your fence? What happened to your last dog?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, and it's a fair question, I would assume, for a breeder to ask.
Absolutely.
So. Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's really more when you go to choose a dog or a breed than just going, that's cute.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you have small children, a small, cute dog is not going to work out well for you.
Right.
You need something that is able to tolerate the children and enjoy them.
And vice versa.
Absolutely, absolutely. On the other hand, it is a terrible mistake to get a dog that is physically more challenging than you can manage.
Sure. You know, a good example would be maybe someone that's elderly that's looking for a companion. They're probably not going to be looking necessarily, unless they're very active, for, you know, a Dalmatian or a breed like that that's exceedingly active and in need of exercise. What kinds of breeds are good for more companionship and low energy levels?
Well, I would look at the toy group, and the toy group has small dogs this size. This is a very good example of the toy group. Reba is a long-haired Chihuahua. Chihuahuas have a special affinity for the elderly. Supposedly, they're also good for people with asthma.
Okay.
If you want a watchdog, you won't do better than a Chihuahua. They hear absolutely everything before the other dogs.
Sure.
They are perfectly willing to do exactly what Reba is doing right now.
Reba's a very good demonstration of a Chihuahua, really, just laying there being peaceful. Lap companion. She's yeah, you're being a very good example. Thank you, Reba.
What would not work well for any of the toy breeds, because they're bred to be companions, is for people to work 12 hours a day.
Sure.
6 days a week. The dog will not be happy. It can be mitigated somewhat if you have more than one, so they have some companionship. But a Chihuahua would not be happy being the only dog and being alone for a long.
Something to consider as well. You know, a lot of dogs don't like to be left alone. They have separation anxiety, and they start to tear up your things and have behavioral issues and things like that. So, you know, say you are someone that works 12 hours a day. What are some of the breeds, or maybe even some things you could consider to keep a dog happy at your home?
Well, I would get an older one. I would possibly get a breed that gets along well with cats and get a cat, or get 2 dogs of opposite sex. There's dog daycare that would help. There's pet sitters. 12 hours is too long for any dog to go without going to the bathroom. If it's a very small dog, of course it can use a potty pad.
Sure.
Large dogs, you probably don't want to do that.
Probably don't want Reba going on a potty pad.
No, or your Mastiff.
Or your Newfoundland or something like that. So.
Right. And I did want to mention our rule for finding a dog is the right dog for the right job, from the right place, at the right age.
Okay.
Because you may find a golden retriever that is got wonderful parents, but it's a puppy.
Right.
And that may be the wrong age for your family at that time. So you may want to get an adult, whereas if you wait 5 years till the children are a little older, then maybe a puppy would be fine.
Well, I think that's something, again, that people, don't think about is getting a dog at a different age. Most people think, I'm going to get a dog, which means I'm going to get a puppy and I'm going to raise it. And that's a really good point to bring up, is that maybe a puppy isn't right for your family.
Absolutely.
You can get older dogs, whether it's, shelters, or I assume even some breed-specific rescues have that.
Well, a lot of show breeders will place a dog after it's had its second litter.
Okay.
If it's a female. They're usually, show breeders tend to keep more females.
Okay.
And after they've had 2 litters, most of them are retired.
Okay.
So they have a lot of years of love and companionship left.
And they're probably pretty good dogs, right?
Oh, well, of course.
Wasn't Reba a show dog?
Yes, she was.
Rhodey. And so you were a show dog, and you make a good pet too, so you didn't get Rhodey as a puppy.
No, I did not. Rhodey was a retired show dog, and the thing that's nice about retired show dogs is that they're calm. Most show breeders will not breed a line of dogs that is nervous, hyper, whatever, because they won't show well.
Okay, all right.
So I prefer people to go to show breeders if they're going to get a pet. If they want to hunt, of course, you want to go to a hunting line, say with a setter or something.
Sure.
But if you want a pet and you're not going to hunt, go to a show breeder, because those dogs will be, as I said, calmer.
Okay. Well, Ellen Johnson, we appreciate you coming on and talking about pets today. We're about out of time, so we brought up a lot to consider when getting a puppy. There's lots of research out there and lots of pet people just like you available to talk to you about that. So we appreciate you coming on the show, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again soon in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you're a veterinarian, trainer, groomer, specialist, rescue organization, or shelter that would like to partner with the Paw Report by providing expert guests for the show or animals to be featured on our Adoptable Pets segment, please contact us by emailing kfpleasant@eiu.edu or call 581-6960. Or if you have a topic you'd like to see on the show or questions for our experts, contact us with those too. Did you know full episodes of the Paw Report are on YouTube? They can be accessed at youtube.com/WEIUTV. Then just go to the Paw Report playlist and select the episode you want to see. More information about the show is also available 24/7 on our website at weiu.net under the Television tab. Have a video or photo of your pet doing something funny or absolutely adorable? We'd love to share it with our viewers here at the Paw Report. Email it to me, Kate, at kfpleasant@eiu.edu, and you can see it on our show. Just make sure it's a video taken by you or that you have permission to share. For more information about how to get that video or photo to us, email me or call us at 581-6960. It's like wrangling cats. Okay, come here, sit. There you go. In 3, 2, Teddy just laid down. Okay, sit down. Okay, everybody behave.